And I saw it as a drill instructor where we would let recruits know that when you give up on yourself, we will not give up on you. That is failure. Now I say, what can be done together?
Clarify your intent. People can't act independently if they don't know what your vision is, what your goal is for the group. In the military, this would be described as commander's intent. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Figure out how you can accomplish it. Welcome to Science of Leadership, where we explore the art and share the science behind what makes great leaders and how you can become one. I'm Tom Collins, your host, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this journey to becoming a better leader. Today, we'll be talking about one of the most powerful forces in leadership, empowerment. What happens when leaders stop trying to do it all themselves and instead help others do great things? Our guest today knows that better than most. He's retired U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant Major Mario Fields, a combat veteran, speaker, host of the Unarmored Talk podcast, and founder of Still Serving Incorporated. Mario's mission is to help people overcome adversity and unlock their full potential. Mario, welcome to Science of Leadership, and thank you for your service to our nation.
Tom, thank you so much for having me on the show. And for all you listeners and viewers out there, if you have not subscribed to this, what I believe is an amazing platform, shame on you. This Sergeant Major was going to have you do 2 push-ups. but Tom, a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to the show.
Thanks. Well, Mario, you spent a career leading Marines in some of the most challenging environments on Earth.
Yeah.
When you hear the word empowerment, what does that mean to you?
You know, Tom, for me, it means setting conditions for success for those that you've been privileged to manage and lead. There's complexities under empowerment. And what I mean is there's multiple words that build up, that develop the word empowerment. But the one I focused on was trust. And that's something that you just don't get. And you have to be consistent. You have to demonstrate that your words are not just words to those you're in charge of. And that's been my experience, is really focusing on what does trust mean for the organization, and really spending an enormous time on myself. Mario, what are things about yourself that you don't trust about you? And dissecting myself inwardly, writing things down. What are your biases? What are things that can be getting in the way? And trusting myself first, and then setting those conditions for success for those I'm in charge of.
That's a powerful distinction, and I think it resonates exactly with how I think about empowerment. And I really appreciate that you delineated that where it starts with us, right? Like, we need to be trustworthy. And as I think about empowerment, I really think about empowerment is trust in action. It's when we as a leader say to those that we're leading, I believe in you to make these decisions, potentially very critical decisions, right? To take risks within identified boundaries, but you've got freedom to move in here in this space. And this is where it gets hard for a lot of leaders, I think, even to screw up, even to fail, because ultimately that's how you're going to grow, right? I'd be interested to know what you think about that.
Yeah, Tom, failure is, in my eyes, an opportunity to gain wisdom. When I reflect back on my 50 young years of living, and 26 years of serving on active duty, it was the failure, right? It was the failing moments, and not looking at failing as a bad thing, but looking at failing as an opportunity to grow in wisdom and experience. So I don't repeat those actions again, and develop new ones that can create more opportunities, especially in moments of crisis.
Yeah, this idea of the importance of allowing failure and learning from failure. I've said it on the podcast before, but early on in life, failure was this horrific thing. If to fail means that you are a failure, was how I viewed it. And that's how I think a lot of people view it. If you fail in this thing, you are a failure. And those are distinctly different, right? I think, and what I tell my kids is, you're only a failure if you don't learn from it, if you don't grow from it, if you're not better from it. And so failing, I think, is the doorway. You said to wisdom. I think that's how we learn.
Yeah.
If we never fail, if we always get it right, have we actually learned anything?
Yeah.
So
Tom,
I agree with you.
And, Tom, and my definition of failing is when I gave up.
Yeah.
That is failure to me. It's when I knew I had more energy, or I had more capability to do something, and I made the conscious decision to just give up on myself. That is failure. And I saw it as a drill instructor, where we would let recruits know that when you give up on yourself, we will not give up on you. That is failure.
In that, I hear a distinction in that giving up on yourself when there's still potential, when there's
Yeah.
still opportunity, when it still could be a possibility is different than having the wisdom when it's actually impossible. Like at some point, right? Like you can keep banging your head on this wall, but it's not coming down, right? And stopping isn't failure. In that scenario, it's wisdom, right?
Yes. I'm 5'2". That's like Mario Pierre-Fields keeps trying out for the LA Lakers. And Tom, and I'm not even going for the point guard position. I'm showing up for the center position. And I keep trying, and now I'm 75 and I'm not making a team. That is a lack of wisdom and discernment.
Right. Yeah, we have to be able to differentiate between the two. In this scenario, we're talking about actually that you could achieve it. You just
Right.
gave up on yourself.
There we go.
I think that, and this gets a little bit, I think, to leadership, people in leadership positions viewing it. And man, this is so timely because literally today
Hmm.
I'm dealing with this in my role. There's a person in a leadership position who is all about control, right? Like with failure, we want to prevent failure, and we think we can do that by controlling everything.
Mm.
So this idea that leadership isn't about control, but really it's about creating this capability. Again, getting back to empowerment,
Yeah.
it's creating capability in others. So when we're empowering people, we don't just delegate the task, we delegate belief. And that's what you were saying when you were a drill instructor. And I'm just imagining you like classic, and it's a kinder, gentler, it's not Vietnam era drill instructors, right? But it's still, I'm just imagining that scene. But you are, in a sense, saying we believe in you even right now if you don't.
Uh-huh.
And then as they accomplish these things they didn't think they could accomplish, suddenly that delegated belief takes hold.
When I was advising lots of officers in my senior enlisted role, commanders and commanding generals, if I saw a behavior of control, I would eloquently, be careful, like an executive, a C-suite executive coach for all the civilians out there, but I would try in a way to ask them why. Do you know why you are a micromanager or controlling? Do you even believe you are? Because see, what I've discovered, Tom, is in their metaphoric lens, they may believe that everything they're doing is good. It's effective. It's the
Yeah.
team that's the problem. And when it comes to empowering those around you, if you're not even aware that your behaviors are the problem, then how can we fix it? And especially if you're not amenable to listening to wisdom. And that's called not criticism, but feedback out of love. Because criticism and feedback are distinctly different. And if that CEO or manager is amenable to listening to feedback, then they can change behaviors about themselves to improve empowerment within the organizational culture and beyond.
Yeah. If they're not amenable to feedback, then things are probably not going to go well for them and the people that they're trying to lead.
From my experience, productivity significantly never maximizes its potential. The culture of the organization is never maximized. In other words, let's say the maximization of the organizational culture as it relates to enthusiasm, attention to detail, all the soft skills, it is degraded. And if they have competitors, the competitors will start to get a competitive advantage over that company.
Let me pause here for a second and remind our listeners that my book, The 4 Stars of Leadership, is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and essentially all online outlets. It's getting rave reviews, and I'm certain you will find it not only informative, but also inspiring. So I hope you'll order your copy today. Now let's get back to this interesting conversation. You were mentioning micromanagement here, right? And that people, it seems to be the micromanagers who do not empower other people because, again, back to this idea that we're talking about with control. And I've kind of come up with 3 things that are the root, if you will, of poor performance. A person, people that we're leading, if somebody that we're leading is performing poorly, there are 3 things I've identified that are sort of root causes of that, and they all point to the leader.
Mm-hmm.
You hired the wrong person. You have not trained the person adequately for whatever role it is. you have actually not told them what you expect of them.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, those are all on us as leaders to address. And if you're micromanaging everybody, it's because you failed on one of those 3 points
Yes.
so that the people can't operate independently. Well, if you say, well, they're just no good. Okay, well, whose fault is that? Who hired them? Oh,
Right.
they were here before I got here. Okay, who should have trained them by now? Uh,
Right. You know, a unit, when I was on active duty, I used to always say this: a unit is never screwed up because of the junior folks. If we're going to change the culture and the trajectory of that unit, we need to get rid of the top. Same thing in business. I hear
mhm.
people go, "Oh, this new generation, or the generation." I'm a Gen Xer. Oh, the Gen Xers are rigid, or whatever. I'm like, oh, hold on, CEO. We can get rid of you, and the company will still produce baby wipes.
All right.
You are the least important person in this company. It's the folks. Matter of fact, why do I need a CEO if I don't have employees to manage and lead? I don't
Right.
need you. We need them. So
Yeah.
if there's poor performance in your company or in your unit, let's get a huge mirror the size of New York and let's just stick you in front of it. There's where the problem starts.
Yeah. Right. And that gets back to this idea of feedback, right? I mean, being willing to accept the feedback.
Tom, and a quick example. When I
Yeah.
went, and I'll use the drill field. I mean, I have many, but I'll use the drill field on this one. As drill instructors, we average 6 platoons. Each platoon in the summer is about 90 recruits. The belief was that if you get the 6th platoon, that is the worst. Here's why: because they arrive, those recruits arrive like Friday. They had no time informing to kind of learn the basics. And then then they meet their drill instructors Saturday morning. So if you get that platoon, that's the worst. And I got that platoon. And they were like, oh, the drone starters are like, oh, yeah, Mario, you got the nasty platoon. You got the last one. And I looked at everyone. This is before we started training day one. And I looked at everyone and I said, I'm going to have the honor platoon. They're all humans. It doesn't matter if they got here on Monday or they got here an hour ago. Watch this. And when we graduated 90 days later, our platoon was number one. It's that mindset. It's the mindset. It's not the people you're in charge of. It starts with you.
Yeah. So this idea of empowerment, I mean, that's good to you, I think, probably, and we've shared this in previous episodes, this idea of Pygmalion effect. If you go into that 6th platoon and you say, you guys are terrible, you're going to be the worst, they will actually live down to that.
Mhm.
But if you come in there and you say, I believe in you, this is again that delegated belief, right? I believe in you, you're going to be the best platoon here. They will rise to that occasion. And I think that as leaders, we need to understand that whatever we project onto those that we lead is what we're going to get.
Yes, and Tom, I listened to one of your previous episodes, and it was hilarious when he said, what if the gentleman sent me an email every day, and he said, "You're the worst, like you suck," and I was
Yeah.
laughing when I heard that one a few weeks ago, a few days ago. But I just did a recent episode. I do unarmored talk pro tips, about 3-minute episodes. I did one 2 days ago, and it's relevant to this because it's called, I talked about the 55-38-7 rule. 55% of communication is nonverbal. It's not even your words. 38% is your tone. Still, we didn't even get to words. 7% of communication is what you actually say. The raw material called words that you as a leader put together and communicate. Only 7%. So in that example, in other examples, you can say anything you want to say that's positive, but the other 93% is what they see on a consistent basis, especially when they make mistakes. Because that's a framework that will reveal if you're authentic or not. And that's what I believe is the connecting file. Is you can be the most dynamic speaker, but that's only
Mhm.
7%. It's the 93% of consistent nonverbal behavior that will validate it and empower
Yeah.
them or not.
Yeah. And this is something just as for me, like I'm a jokester. I think people in my professional domain don't know that unless they're around me enough. But like, I like to make jokes. Usually they're pretty dry, somewhat, and I can have a, a bite of sarcasm. And as a leader, that's no good. At the end of the day, that's no good to do that because it does create this dissonant signal. If I've got sarcasm that I'm using as trying to be funny, if the people don't know me well enough to
Right.
know what I'm actually saying, and even sometimes when they do know me well enough, I have to go back and go, that was a joke, right? Like, and so if you find yourself as a leader having to go back and go, I was joking, it was probably not a good idea to deliver it however you delivered it or to say it at all, right? I mean,
Mhm.
so for me, that's something I've had to work on is the juice worth the squeeze? And I mean, are we going to get anything out of this? It's going to be of value, or am I going to be cleaning up my mess because somebody didn't get the joke or it landed wrong or, this sort of stuff. I've got a foot in my mouth again, whatever it may be.
And Tom, and especially if your nonverbals don't match the joke. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I do a lot of comedy on my, social media, and so I do have playlists and where you see the comedic skill set of Mario P. Fields, and so I do this kind of for a living, and know your strengths, know your weaknesses. If you're not a natural comedian, if you will, know your audience and don't try to be funny because it makes it worse if it's not natural. And then your nonverbals. And like you said, Tom, I mean, if I was telling a joke and if folks were watching this and I said, "Yeah, today we're all gonna get off of work at 9." And you see my nonverbals, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" And everyone starts stressing out, and I go, "You guys know I was joking, right?" But my nonverbals did not even compliment the words I chose in humor. Humor is a good thing. Humor is
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
therapeutic. It's even
Hmm.
biblical. But like you said, it's knowing yourself and realizing that 93% of communication is your nonverbals, and that has a major impact on the selection of words you use.
Yeah. And whether or not we are empowering people or disempowering them, right? Yeah. Well, Mario, nowadays you having moved out of the Marine Corps, you're leading a different space,
Mhm.
and that's in your organization, Still Serving Incorporated. And there you're helping young people from low income backgrounds go on to really do some great things. So when you look at that new phase, what does empowerment look like in that new phase of your life?
Tom, first of all, thanks for this opportunity to discuss something that's near and dear to my heart and very meaningful. I've been founded and leading Still Serving Incorporated for over 7 years. And as it relates to empowerment, what I've discovered through research is students, and particularly what I focus on, or what the company focuses on, is high school students in early college, high schools in Pitt County, North Carolina. What I discovered is there's lots of potential there. They just need access to resources. So Still Serving Incorporated creates that opportunity, creates an environment where they trust that there are people who care about their future outside of their parents, their community. And here's an example. What is lacking in the United States labor market right now through research is soft skills. That's why over about almost 50% of companies are making degrees preferred, not required, because they want access to soft skills, attention to detail, conflict resolution. I can go on and on and on. Social perceptiveness, self awareness, emotional intelligence. I can't send anyone to the University of Enthusiasm. And, if I probably stayed in the Marine Corps 50 years, but soft skills. So if there's an etiquette event that a principal at one of the schools want to host at, let's say, the Hilton, but it's going to cost $3,000 to do this, my company strokes the check. So essentially, if you go on my website, you'll see a lot of pictures, mainly of me doing check presentations, is because I create that. It builds trust. It creates environments for success. And now these students can develop these critical soft skills that they can carry into the skilled trades industry, the academic setting, and more. And last but not least, one of my first student intern, her name is Amira. She's on the website. She actually is at Duke University, second year, full ride scholarship. Just one example of many of creating these opportunities in these communities.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. That sort of work is so important. And it strikes particularly close to home for me
Yeah.
because I grew up in a low income family, in a low income county of Appalachia, and I mean, it's interesting. I was kind of among the the low income. I was kind of middle tier. I mean, even among the low income, right? Like you have these tiers of whatever, but I was kind of middle tier of low income. I had other people that I could go, wow, they really have it hard, right? Whereas most people would go, this guy has it hard, but the impact that you and organizations like yours can have.
Mhm.
Like I'm here doing what I'm doing in medicine and leadership and all these things because there were people who empowered me, who spoke into my life in a world where anybody else would have said, this guy's going to end up in the wrong place,
Right.
and all along. teachers and people at church and people in the community, coaches and mentors, and all these people spoke. They delegated belief into my life, empowering me to do things that anybody would have had to been a lunatic to bet on. This guy's going to do this stuff, right? So, and it's all the honor to them and to God for giving me the opportunity. But I just wanted to say thank you for that kind of work that you're doing, because I think it's so incredibly important.
No, Tom, you're welcome. And two points. One, thank God for those who believed in you and you believed in yourself. I am being obedient. I did not want to be a business owner. When I was retiring, Tom, I said, I just want to go to Tampa and I just want to chill. And God said, no, through spirit. So one, I am being obedient through God's grace and through spiritual revelation. That's how Still Serving came about. Number two, for folks that are doing B2B, business to business transactions, I don't live in Pitt County. So when I approached the principals, they were like, this is not real. Here's this gentleman who's a Marine, sergeant major and whatever. I mean, whatever they thought. He's walking in saying, I just want to cut checks. If you allow me to write checks with nothing in return, it will allow me to go to bed at night in peace. So let's talk about empowerment and trust. And they told me, they were like, there's got to be a hidden agenda. Well, 7 years later and 3 schools later, when we did the memorandum of understanding, they still had reluctance, like, oh, I don't know. And then once the checks, right, your performance, once the checks started to come in like I said they would, then that built trust. So the words I used was, hey, this is my company. Here's our website. This is our mission. I would love to partner with you. It was the 93% of he's not over promising and under delivering. That empowered them to trust me, which empowered expansion and more for the teachers and principals to do what they're called to do.
Well, now that we've kind of laid out what does empowerment look like, let's shift a bit and talk about why it's important. And you hit on this a little bit earlier, but why is empowerment so essential for leadership effectiveness?
Yeah, one is biblical. My wife and I, we do daily bread every morning. Our routine is it's by between 6 and 7. We go into scripture, and yesterday, and I don't have the scripture reference in front of me, but yesterday we studied how powerful it is to do things with teammates. You can do things by yourself. That's factual. But if you learn how to do things with other people, it makes the impact greater. And there's more opportunities for things you may not have considered. And then one of the statements I use, well, mindset is I used to say, what can I do to make things better, or change the world or whatever? I changed that, Tom. Now I say, what can be done together?
Yeah.
Starts internally with your mindset, man, for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that hits on this. Empowerment multiplies leadership, really, if you think about it, right? I mean, one empowered person, Marine, student, whatever, can make decisions that ripple across your group or team, organization, business, whatever it may be, whatever collection of people that you have, right? To the world. I mean, the people that have been empowered who have changed the world is incredible. But then if we look at the reverse, without empowerment, if everybody is disempowered, then only one person, back to this micromanager, only one person is making all the decisions. You can't, like, that's a bottleneck that you can't get past if that one person is having to do all these things. And so when we empower everybody, then everybody becomes takes ownership in our mission. And then the results, they actually are invested in them and care about them and are going to do more to make sure that those get accomplished, I think.
Tom, yes. It's like when you're driving a car, if everything's working, man, it's a smooth ride. It's when cylinder number 4 and the check engine light comes on. And if I can put this in a visual model in your head.
Yeah.
What is empowerment? Why is empowerment? Why is it so critical in any industry or anywhere? Imagine this, where the leader and the led are switching spots as fast as a spark plug. And that's the synergy of the company's culture, where it's transparent. In other words, I'm the sergeant major. I'm Mario Fields, the founder and president of Still Serving Incorporated. I'm the leader, right? I'm in that position. The moment my wife says, I believe you should do your intro this way, and I was open to receiving that wisdom, and I changed my behavior based on her advice, who's being led?
Right.
Me.
You are.
That instant moment, I am following who? Her.
Yeah.
Opposite of that is when I am the leader, I'm the CEO, I'm the manager, I'm the project manager, and there's feedback, but you're not taking it. Therefore, there's no synergy. It's linear.
Yeah.
Empowerment is degraded. Your production. I mean, we can go on and on what happens. So the first example is like an infinite loop. It just keeps going and producing. The second one is very linear. And if an external factor takes out that leader, we got bigger problems.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Mario. And for our listeners, what Mario is really saying fits perfectly with the science behind this concept. Research consistently shows that empowering leadership, that is, when we as leaders empower others, has measurable benefits. For example, studies have been published, one in the Leadership Quarterly, which I reference frequently, and another in the Journal of Organizational Behavior. And they demonstrated that empowering leadership behaviors like sharing power, expressing confidence in followers, and encouraging autonomy actually predict higher job satisfaction, more creativity, and better performance, which all have, as you might imagine, positive outcomes for organizations. Empowerment also strengthens organizational commitment and psychological safety, two key predictors of long-term success. So in other words, the data support what Mario's saying, what we're talking about here, that when leaders empower others, everybody wins.
Amen. Amen.
So Mario, we've talked about what we're talking about, empowerment, why it's important.
Mm.
Let's get to really the practical sort of thing on this. What practical things can you recommend to leaders to start today to be able to empower the people they're leading?
Yeah, one resource I would recommend is do an assessment of your RIASEC codes. That's Dr. Holland RIASEC. You can Google that, put it in search engine, and it's 60 questions to gain a better understanding of your personality codes as it relates to industry. And that's R for realistic, I for investigative, A for artistic, S for social, E for enterprising, and C for conventional. It is very accurate. It's been around since the 1950s, mid 50s. In that way, one, you can understand how are you wired, if you will, through the personality codes. Then number two, if you could, do it with your team. It's very effective. And now you have science to see how do your team, how do they think? Now you can get synergy because, for instance, someone who's high investigative, they don't like to be around a lot of people. They love research, and they sometimes they can overthink. My number one is social. I'm a helper. It doesn't mean I like to talk to people. It just means I like to do things to help people. If I don't understand as a leader that the person I'm leading is high investigative, I could irritate them and not know it. Or I could promote them into a position that is actually not putting them in a position that enhances their natural abilities. So when I do lead folks who are high investigative, what I do is I call it going investigative. So I'll speak kind of linear, not too much. And if I'm going to give them an assignment or task or put them in a position, it's going to be something that's going to be heavy in research, but not doing business deals, working the front counter, dealing with a bunch of humans. That would be my initial recommendation for any listeners and viewers to really gain an accurate understanding of how they think and why through Dr. Holland RIASEC codes.
Thanks for sharing that. We'll put a link to that in our show notes and description and so forth, so that the listeners and viewers can connect with that. That sounds like, I got to be honest, I haven't come across that yet, so I'll have to check that out for myself. Appreciate that, Mario. As I was, kind of thinking about when I'm trying to empower people, what are some of the key things that I do to do that? And so one thing I think first and foremost, I believe in them. If I'm going to empower them, I have to believe in them, right? So I just have to get my mind straight. One, believe in your people.
Amen.
Number two, clarify your intent. People can't act independently if they don't know what your vision is, what your goal is for the group. In the military, this would be described as commander's intent. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Figure out how you can accomplish it, that sort of thing. So we need to clarify what we want. This gets back to setting expectations that I mentioned earlier. Give people decision space. within a set of boundaries that should probably be bigger than we are even comfortable with, we say, here's your space to move, make the decisions. I'm not going to micromanage. And that allows them to learn and grow. And then I think number 3, because it ripples across, it impacts them and ripples across the organization, is celebrate initiative. Like when people, when they do something, hey, maybe it wasn't exactly like you would have wanted it done or what have you. Did it accomplish the goal? Celebrate that they tried, even if they messed up. Maybe perhaps especially if they messed up. Don't punish mistakes. Because as soon as you like come crashing down on somebody that you gave freedom to roam and try to do this thing, you will have disempowered them permanently. And so, but when we empower somebody as leaders, if we're going to be good leaders, if that fails, if whatever they do fails, we've got to take the responsibility for that. So I refer to it as give credit and take the blame.
Yeah, Tom. And it's complex. Like you said, it's complex. There's no right or wrong way it changes daily. Humans are the most unpredictable species on earth. It's complex. I see a lot of leaders try to find that right solution. There's no right solution. Oh, I read this book and I got the code. What code? What code did you get?
Right.
What code?
Yeah.
And I love how you laid out your 3 points. It's like you said, Tom, it's a framework, but it's so complex to lead just one person.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
It is. It is. It's enriching, it's fulfilling, and fun. Or at least it should be. If you're not getting some of those things out of it, maybe you're not in the right role. Maybe
Yes, sir.
this
Yeah.
leadership gig is not for you, or whatever.
And that's okay. Again, like Mario P. Fields in the LA Lakers center position.
Right, exactly. If you keep banging your head against the leadership wall and it's not working, maybe,
Yeah.
So this reminds me of something from my book that I think would be worth sharing with folks. But in it, I share this idea that I kind of developed, and there's a graph that comes with it, and it is the relationship between giving authority to people, so if you will, empowering them really, and success. And so that basically, and it's not a linear thing, but really you have to give a pretty significant amount. So on the x-axis, and we'll embed this in our video and stuff, but I guess as you look at it, on the x-axis, with empowerment being on the x and success being on the y, you have to get out pretty far in empowerment before you start seeing that success curve really take off. And when you hit complete empowerment, success really goes up. And so if you're wanting your folks to be successful in their roles, you really have to let go of the reins and empower them to do it.
I love that, Tom. And listening to you, and by the way, everyone, if you haven't bought his book, shame on you, and shame on me. I'm an honest broker. I didn't get a chance to buy it before this episode, and I will. And
there'll be a link in the description.
oh yeah, I'm an honest broker. The way you describe that just remind me of return on relationships. In business, I hear folks, I use it, return on investment, return on engagement. I mean, there's so many acronyms, but that amazing description, Tom, just reminded me of return on relationships. That x-axis is the time it takes. The further you travel on it, okay, then the ROR starts to go up that Y. So thank you for sharing that and reminding me of the power of ROR.
Mario, this has been a great conversation. Let me close out our conversation with something that General Barry McCaffrey shared with me one time we were talking. He told me when he was younger in his career, he met Brigadier General Johnny Johnson, and General Johnson shared this wisdom with him. He said, Barry, the only thing I've ever noticed about successful leaders, they don't look better, they don't talk better, they're not the smartest guy in the room, but they all figure out how to identify and empower talent. And so for us as leaders, I think that's what we got to do, figure out how to identify and empower talent. And hopefully this conversation will help our listeners move closer toward that.
Thank you, Tom, so much. And again, I would love to come back on your show anytime in the future, and I will return the favor on the Unarmored Talk podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mario, it's been great. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Science of Leadership. We hope today's discussion has inspired you and given you valuable insights to help you become a better leader. Remember, leadership is about helping those we lead do great things. It's a journey of continual growth and learning. When we embrace that journey with curiosity, courage, and humility, we can confront challenges, overcome barriers, and foster environments where everyone can succeed. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with others who are passionate about leadership. Until next week, keep leading with character, competence, caring, and communication. This is Tom Collins. Let's keep growing.